Okay, good morning and welcome to the OpenActive webinar on how to publish virtual sessions. I'm Tara Lee, I'm the OpenActive Engagement Lead at the Open Data Institute, and I'll be the host for today's webinar. So before we get started, I just have a couple of housekeeping points to make. We'll be recording today's webinar and a link to this video will be shared later this week along with the slides from today. We'll also be sending a follow-up survey and future webinar topics. So if you didn't sign up to this webinar through Eventbrite, please send your email address and name to hello@openactive.io so that we can add you to the mailing list for this. Questions can be asked on Slido throughout today's webinar, and we'll be answering as many of these as possible at the end of the session. And if you're new to OpenActive and would like to ask general questions about the initiative, please also get in touch with us at hello@openactive.io, and we'll put the email address up at the end of the webinar if you weren't able to write that down. And if you're interested in other work that the ODI does around opening data in general, you can also use that same email address to get in touch with us, and we will direct you to the best person within the ODI to answer your questions. So speaking today, we have my colleague, Tim Hill, who is the OpenActive Technical Lead at the Open Data Institute, Tom Marley, who is the co-founder of Played, and Charlie Clark, who is the Chief Commercial Officer at Playwaze. So going through the agenda for today, Tim will be starting us off with an introduction to publishing virtual sessions, with an introduction to virtual properties and how to implement these properties in open data feeds. We'll then have two presentations from Tom and Charlie, who will be talking about what their systems are doing to support the publication of virtual opportunities and the value that they've seen created so far. Tim, Charlie and Tom will then discuss together the benefits of publishing virtual opportunities in both the short and longer term, and what our expectations are for what the physical activity landscape will look like going forward as we start to see COVID-19 restrictions being lifted. And finally, we'll have a 10-minute Q&A session where you can put your questions to the four of us. So before we kick off, I want to make sure everyone who's joined the webinar is able to access Slido for the questions. So could I ask all of the attendees to open up a new browser and go to www.sli.do, so it's sli.do, and enter the OpenActive area using the hashtag on the screen. So it's just OpenActive, all one word. And once you're in there, we're going to test to make sure that everyone can use Slido okay. So we're going to run a couple of polls. So I'm just going to start the first poll, which is just asking who on this call has heard of OpenActive before signing up for this webinar. So if you could all vote, we'll be able to see the responses for that, and I can see how many people have voted. And we've currently got about 103 participants on the call, so I'll just wait to see. We've got 66 people who have answered that poll so far. Numbers still going up. Okay, so we've had 81 responses to that, or 83. So I will stop that poll now. And it seems that about half of the audience hasn't heard of OpenActive before signing up, so I will give a brief introduction to what OpenActive is, but if you do have more general questions about OpenActive, you can email us at hello.openactive.io. So I'm just going to run a new poll, so if you weren't able to answer that first one, you'll see the second one. So we just want to get an idea of, again, who's joined the webinar, what role you would say that you play in the physical activity sector. And you can answer multiple options on here. I know some organizations play multiple roles. So do you provide physical activities or facilities? Do you provide a booking or a project management system? Might be a monitoring and evaluation system for activity providers to be able to list their sessions. Do you use the data that activity providers can provide to create activity finders, apps, services that help the public to find physical activities that they want to do? Do you support one of those or more of those organizations? Or do you have a different role in the sector? Okay, so we've had about 78 responses to that. It seems the majority of people, about 73%, are what we call activity providers. And this would definitely make sense for you guys for this webinar. But we have tried to make this webinar inclusive to all types of organizations as well. Okay, so back to the presentation. Just for those of you who aren't familiar with OpenActive, I'm going to try and explain this as quickly as I can because we don't have too much time for this aspect. OpenActive basically helps organizations to publish their opportunities as open data so that they can be used in lots of different places, as this diagram is demonstrating. So you can see on the left-hand side, these are examples of booking systems or management systems that have built OpenActive functionality. And then using OpenActive standards, they are able to publish your opportunities as open data so that those opportunities can be used by all of these different public activity finders on the right here. So it means that as an activity provider, you continue just to put your opportunities into your own system. Your system builds this functionality and all of your opportunities can feed through to all of these different places. So really increasing your marketing reach and making it possible for more people to find the opportunities that you put on. And by opportunity data, we're only talking about the attributes of sessions or facilities like times, locations, activity types, etc. We're not talking about any personal data. And on the next slide, you'll see we have a link to our marketing toolkit. So this is a new thing that we've put together. It's also going to be on our website, which we're relaunching at the end of next week. So if you are new to OpenActive, you can find out more about the initiative here, or you can email us at hello@openactive.io to find out more. So just in terms of setting the scene for why we've organized this webinar, as everyone knows, due to COVID-19 and the resulting lockdown, the sector has dramatically changed since the 23rd of March. And what we've seen from that, obviously people can't go out and go to the usual classes that they would normally be able to do, but people have definitely been interested in taking up virtual activities that they can do in the comfort of their own home or in their gardens, or if they're able to go to their parks. And so what we have done is, as quickly as we could, updated the OpenActive standards to include virtual properties so that people who are opening their data, publishing their opportunities as open data, can do so in a standardized way for virtual opportunities as well. And we don't know what a post-COVID world is probably quite far off, but we don't know what the new normal is going to be as the lockdown restrictions ease. And so we expect virtual opportunities are likely to have a major role to play in that. So I'm now going to pass over to my colleague Tim, who is the OpenActive technical lead at the ODI.
Okay, hello, welcome all. I'll be moving through at a fairly brisk pace because of time constraints. However, just please do rest assured that if you get in touch with us after the webinar, we'll be more than happy to answer any questions you have, but hopefully everything is reasonably clear. Thanks to various people in the area trying to make everything as simple as possible for activity providers. So starting with the very basics, I think this is pretty clear, but I think just to make sure we're all on the same page, what are virtual sessions? And the answer is pretty clearly simply sessions that take place online. So in contrast to the normal way of engaging in physical activity where you go to a gym and follow a class along there in person with the instructor standing at the front of the room, these are sessions that take place online. And they fall into two camps. The first is streaming sessions. So in this case, really it's as close as possible to the original experience where the instructor is broadcasting live and you, in the comfort of your own home, watch the instructor, follow along with what they're doing, depending on the technology involved, there may or may not be an opportunity to feedback. So there's a potential for interaction there, and so on and so forth. The second kind of virtual session is what we're calling on-demand events. So this is more like typically watching a video. So you're looking at, say, YouTube or a similar platform, and simply watching what the instructor does and following along at your own speed, at your own pace. There's no interaction there, but the advantage is it's available whenever you want it to be. There's no schedule there. Given the response earlier on to how many people here are physical activity providers, I'm going to be focusing mostly on the steps that physical activity providers and instructors have to take to get their sessions online and available. Those of you who are more interested in the technical aspects of this and are maybe booking system implementers or session implementers, there's more technical information available on our developer site. And if you really want to get into the gory details, you can go check out our GitHub repositories where the nitty-gritty is really broken down for you. And you're certainly welcome and invited to contribute to those GitHub repositories, whether in code or in terms of comments that you've got on what we're doing and questions you might have. Why virtual events now? I think the answer is probably pretty obvious to everybody here. In fact, OpenActive has been thinking about virtual events for a long time. We first started discussing it back in April 2018, and we looked at various solutions to the problem then. However, of course, everything shot to prominence in the last couple of months with the COVID-19 restrictions being put in place. So virtual events have always been part of what OpenActive has hoped to cater for, but obviously the time to do so is now. So the first question that you probably have if you're an activity provider is, how do I actually create my session? I'm used to showing up in a physical location and doing my thing and doing what I know how to do best. How do I translate that into the digital world? Fortunately, OnDemand has produced a guide to how you do that, which is very helpful. It's linked to in this slide, which we'll be sending around later. And that gives you a real step-by-step introduction to how to record yourself, what platforms you can distribute your sessions on, and explores all the different options you've got for getting online. So whether you're a Facebook or an Instagram or a Zoom user, there are various ways that you can get your sessions viewable by the general public. In addition, if you're already using an established leisure management system or a booking system of some sort, a lot of them will have their own solutions in place as well. So hopefully there shouldn't be too much technical difficulty in actually getting what you're offering onto an online platform where people can access it. There are plenty of things to worry about, you know, how to make sure that you're keeping up a level of interaction with participants and so on and so forth. But the technical underpinnings should be relatively straightforward. Once you've actually created your session, however, or once you've got a technical solution in place, the question of how you get it out there is a little bit more involved. If you're extremely lucky, you're using a system already, a leisure management system or booking system that already offers that functionality. So somewhere there's a tick box for you to tick, and you say, I'm going to be uploading my session here at this URL, and it's as simple as that. However, there are a number of systems that don't yet offer OpenActive functionality or virtual event functionality. If you're using an existing system, here are just a couple of examples of what those tick boxes might look like, what the web form you have to fill out is. You can see that it's fairly straightforward in the example given here. This is a screenshot from an actual system. And you can see that all you really have to do is tick a couple of boxes indicating that you want to publish your data and that you meet certain legal criteria for doing so. Here's another example from another system. Again, a very simple web form with just a couple of fields. If you don't have that kind of convenience available to you, unfortunately, you're going to have to find somebody who can offer that to you. There are a number of systems available out there. Again, they're listed in the OnDemand guide. I think there's about 3 or 4 who have already implemented it, and another 2 or 3 who are in the course of implementing it. So you do have a range of providers through which you can publicize your sessions. Assuming that your existing provider doesn't, you should probably let them know that you would like to have this functionality added. If you can email them and let them make them aware that this is the kind of thing you're looking for, that will help to help them to set their business priorities. But in the short term, you're going to have to move to some other provider simply for getting your virtual events out there. One point to note, please don't, if you're trying to publish your system, your sessions, please don't list them both on your existing session and on a new system as well. If you list your events as occurring in a physical location as per usual and in a virtual location, we run a risk of having duplicate entries and end users becoming very confused, because it might look as though you're offering 2 sessions at the same time and so on and so forth. So if you're interested in publishing virtual sessions, please use just one system for doing that and avail yourself of only one system throughout for your virtual events, even if your physical events are published on another system. I'm just going to close with a couple of very basic tips for getting your data up and out there. First of all, be very clear with end users how they can join your session. You need to make very clear that this is a virtual session and that they will have to follow some kind of link, and make it clear what link they will be following and what kind of technology they need to click on that link. For instance, whether they need to have Zoom installed. The other point is probably you want them to know who you are and what kind of other services you offer. This is an opportunity for you to promote your own sessions in future. So please do, where you can, include a URL back to your own website so that people can see what you're doing and track your activities in the future. Another point, this is kind of legal housekeeping. A lot of physical activities are built around intellectual property, such as trademarked music or something like that. This isn't normally a problem because when you're playing, say, Zumba music inside your own physical activity session, obviously there's no potential for intellectual property infringement there. However, once you start streaming this on the net, then there's an opportunity for this to count as copyright infringement. So please be a little bit careful, paying attention to what contractual obligations you have towards any music you might have, and to any safeguarding or insurance obligations you might have. Finally, one of the difficulties once you start publishing your data is just making sure people can find what you're offering and understand what it is in a clear and intelligible way. To help you do this, OpenActive does provide an activity list, which is standardized names for describing your activities. And as you can see, there's an awful lot of them there. All the different kinds of yoga are represented and so on and so forth. Please do, if this option is offered to you in your booking systems, rather than just typing a name in free text, please do try to select a value given in the drop-down menu in order to help end users find what you're providing and to help them understand exactly what that is. And if you do that, your chances of getting a lot of customers and getting satisfied customers are very, very high. So that's about it from me. Thank you very much for your time. And as I say, if you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Tim. So, Tom.
I'm Tom Marley, one of the founders at Played, and what we do is we build technology which connects communities to physical activity, usually in person, but because of COVID, we've kind of had to switch pretty quickly to promoting virtual activities, and it's been interesting to learn kind of how that works in both kind of different terms. So as Tim mentioned earlier, you've got on-demand videos, which are a bit more like YouTube videos. You've got live streaming videos, which is, they kind of happen at a specific time. And we've been exploring both of these avenues. And so as a company, we create products which make physical activity more accessible. We work with a range of organizations who want to encourage their communities to be more active. And we believe fully that technology is going to drive physical activity levels into the future. And so we create a range of products which help make this possible. So just a bit of background on our platform. We make a few different products. So we create activity finders on behalf of different organizations. We create analytics dashboards so those organizations can see who in their communities are being active and who needs that extra help. And we're also developing, this is not launched yet, but a listing system, which Tim mentioned before, to allow providers to reach more customers. And that's all OpenActive enabled. All our products are powered by open data. And so, yeah, we believe it's the kind of future of allowing all these different aspects of the physical activity sector grow. So for the public, they can more easily discover activities and facilities going on around them, or in this case, online. Operators can reach more customers, generate more revenue and grow their own businesses. And organizations like local authorities, active partnerships, health campaigns, they can gain more insight into what's going on and kind of use that to help inform strategy. So we've done, I mentioned before, a couple of different things in response to the shift towards online activities. And so we've had to do it in two separate kind of ways. So we've focused on OnDemand, which, as I mentioned before, is more like your YouTube. And so what we did was curated hundreds of videos. We tried to make sure they were all free and accessible. And we created 5 main categories, which range from children to older adults through to wellness, health conditions. And what we found was, when we kind of went through this process of creating videos that were already out there, we found that there was lots of activities for kind of older adults, for already active people, but there was a lack of content reaching the right people that was for the more vulnerable groups. And so we've created this tool to help people more easily find that content, because it does exist, but it's just sometimes a bit harder to find. If you want to check this website out, it's free to use, and we want to share it as wide as possible. So the link will come through after this presentation, but the URL is played.co/ondemand. And yeah, we've kind of added some filtering in there, and just make it as easy as possible for people to find those activities. And we've learned quite a few things going through this process. We've realized that there is a specific demand, and it's landed really well for people in vulnerable groups, so older adults, people with health conditions. This type of content is generally a bit harder to find, and we've got some great anecdotes of people that haven't been active in years, finding something that suits them and being able to do it for free in the comfort of their own home. So we see a lot of potential in kind of getting more content for these type of vulnerable groups, and are talking to quite a few sector stakeholders in how we can kind of progress work in this area. So I encourage people on the call, if you are creating content or doing classes for more vulnerable groups, then yeah, be great to get in touch and keep creating that content, and it'll be put in front of people through these methods, such as what we're talking about today with the virtual OpenActive feeds. And yeah, I think the main takeaway was that from the on-demand videos, I'm going to go on to some live stuff at the moment, but this crosses over with both, is that it removes a couple of major barriers for people participating in exercise. So it's usually free or fairly cheap. And it stops people that may be embarrassed to kind of go to a gym or down to a leisure centre. It allows them to kind of get started on that active journey from the comfort of their home, and it's kind of a good starting point for people who have that problem. So we're quite bullish on how video is going to help the really inactive part of the population. So another strand we've done is, been using OpenActive feeds to populate activity finders that we've created for a few of our customers. And this just makes it easy to find online activities that are being published. We created this tool for London Sport and their Get Active website. Sorry, I've just lost mine. And yeah, so that we just want to make it as easy as possible for the general public to be able to find all the great activities that are going on. And so the link will be shared after the presentation as well if you want to explore that tool. And what we've learned from live, our work within kind of the live category, is that it's a great way to support local instructors and gyms. So we want to make it easy for people to find classes that are going on that are being promoted by familiar instructors. And it also allows them to generate revenue if they charge for their sessions. It helps the participant feel more committed to a certain time. So there's a bit of a difference there between these live sessions and on demand. So people feel a bit more accountable to do it at a specific time, or it can be potentially feel more sociable. And we feel that with virtual activities, because they're fairly scalable, so you can kind of reach lots of different people, and so the benefits become even more valuable. So yeah, I'd encourage you, if you're a provider on the call today, to really look into this and see this as a way of growing your activities and business. And yeah, Tim alluded to it before, but it is really important to make your information listed clearly. Use good photos. If you were selling something on eBay, you'd put a good description, you'd put a good photo. And so I'd encourage you to do the same in this instance, and you will reach more customers by kind of promoting your sessions through OpenActive. So yeah, I encourage you all to do so. Thanks a lot, guys. I've left my contact details here and our website address. Feel free to get in contact anytime for all of the work that we're kind of doing around promoting physical activity. And so yeah, that's all from me. I'll pass on to I think it's going back to Ollie.
Thanks, Tom. So next up we have Charlie, who's the Chief Commercial Officer at Playwaze.
Thanks very much, Tara. Hopefully everyone can hear me. So yeah, I'm Charlie, Chief Commercial Officer at Playwaze. I'm just going to talk to you guys, like Tom, about who we are and what we've done to support providers in getting their activities online and promoted. For those who might be new to us, Playwaze is a digital platform founded in 2012. So we've been around for about 8 years. And the platform's used by anyone from a WhatsApp-sized sports group to instructors, clubs, charities, and even up to the size of leisure operators, NGBs and active partnerships for delivering sport and physical activity online and via an app. The Playwaze platform is made up of sort of 3 core products, as we call them. So we have a web portal available at playwaze.com, which is a place for you to manage your activities. We do provide other modules as well, which I'll talk through in a moment. Our web portal tends to be used by administrators for managing, creating your activities, making changes if things do change. And it's also used by participants when they're booking on or registering for activities that they may have found through an activity finder that you have hosted on the Playwaze platform. We also provide the Playwaze mobile app available through the Apple and Google stores, which is a really nice, easy on-the-go way for your participants to access their activities and get reminders about the activities they've booked onto previously. So once someone's booked onto an activity, the Playwaze platform keeps them engaged and keeps them coming back by nudging them about future occurrences of that same activity, if it's happening again the next week, the week after that, etc. And for those who don't have one, we do also provide activity finders. So it's easy for you to create your activities on the Playwaze platform and then host those on your website by dropping a activity finder onto your site so that you're managing things in one place. We do other work. So activities forms one of actually 8 areas of work at Playwaze. We're not just an activities and booking system, but we also provide competition management services and team management services. If you're an instructor who perhaps wants to charge memberships and subscriptions for access to your activities, more on a monthly subscription model, we have subscription management tech built in. And relevant to this is we always also have a rewards product embedded in the platform. So if you're wanting to provide participants or reward participants with reward points for getting active, just simply by booking on and then attending your activities, you can award them reward points and help them redeem those points for reward products and prizes that you can provide. So a range of services we provide depending on your interest and what the sort of things you deliver. In terms of the work we've done since lockdown was imposed and the impacts of COVID-19, we've sort of enhanced our platform and the range of our products, our web platform, our app, and our activity finders to handle virtual activity. So you'll now find that we can provide not just physical activity finders, but taken our physical activity finder product and turned it into a simple live stream and on-demand activity finder widget for your website. These can handle all OpenActive public available content. So if you're a promoter who wants to give participants access to all available content that's available through the OpenActive community, all the different providers and booking systems, we can provide that for you. If you're a single provider who just wants to promote your own activities on your own website and not those of other providers, you can also have a widget for your site that only promotes your own activities, still OpenActive compliant data. We also provide, at the moment, the Playwaze platform for free to promote your virtual activities. So if you are wanting to get your activity sessions and classes online and promoted through all of the activity finders, not just Playwaze ones, but those provided by the likes of Tom at Played and other organisations, you can use our platform currently completely for free to list an unlimited number of activities, and we'll get those promoted for you as part of the OpenActive movement. We are continuing a sort of roadmap of development around this for all of our users. Last week, we released the concept of bookings and payments for those on the platform who are wanting to either take pre-registrations for their activities or indeed take payments. Pre-registration, although it is easy, nice and easy to give someone, a user, a participant, direct access to your activities so that they're readily available and they click through to Facebook or Zoom or Instagram, wherever you may be providing your live or indeed on demand from YouTube, etc. Just gives you the ability as a provider to build a little bit of a database of participants who are engaging in your content. That may well be valuable for you as we start moving back from virtual towards physical activity, hopefully over the next few months, and being able to reach out to those participants to see if they want to continue participating with you in a physical world, in a hopefully more normal world. Payments is also really interesting. What we found, I don't know if this is the same for Tom at Played, is a lot of providers wanting to provide free content initially, free access to live streams and on-demand activities, simply so they could help those at home stay active. It's obviously been a number of weeks since we've been in lockdown, and we found a trend of providers moving to a charging model, simply because participants have said they're more than happy to be paying for access to their services. So just because we're in a virtual world and they're delivering online, participants seem to be happy to pay for access to the services that those activity providers are providing. So we've provided a bookings and payments capability, so you can take those registrations and take those payments. But it obviously helps you as providers stay sort of sustainable from a revenue perspective as well. There's a lot of people struggling out there, and being able to protect your income streams by charging simple, small nominal amounts to access your content is nice and easy. And the trend seems to be that people are happy to pay to access. To give you guys a feel for who we work with and what we're already doing, we've got a whole host of different organisations who are promoting your content. So these are the brands and logos you can see here, all the different organisations who are out there promoting your live stream and on-demand content through their websites, and they use Playwaze powered activity finders to do that. So if you're wondering why you might create your live stream or physical activity and make it OpenActive enabled, here's a good reason. A lot of these brands will be promoting that content for you, so that you can reach that bigger audience. In terms of providers on the system, there's again a number of providers out there who have moved from physical to virtual activity, and all the logos on the right are all the different providers who we work with at the moment, and this is just a snapshot who have moved from physical to virtual delivery and are benefiting from the extended reach that the OpenActive movement provides them. To give you an example here, if we look at the logo centre right, the Active Wellbeing Society. The Active Wellbeing Society, if you've not heard of them before, in a normal world, provide 250 physical activities in the city of Birmingham, community and physical activities to help combat isolation and keep people physically active. They've moved from that physical model of 250 activities a week to providing about 10, 15 live classes as well as on-demand content, so that those in Birmingham can keep active, and they're benefiting from the promotion that the likes of Sport Birmingham are providing by promoting their content and making it more accessible in more places for participants to find and join. So lots of benefits to getting involved, and it doesn't matter which side of the fence you sit on. There are definitely benefits for you to either as a provider or as a promoter to engage in everything that the OpenActive community does, and that we do at Playwaze. That's everything from me. There's lots of ways to get involved with us if you're interested in. You can request a free finder through our website, and we'll get that back to you in a couple of working days if you want a widget for your website. You can obviously get online and register and add your activities for free via Playwaze with our current offer. And if you want to speak with us and find out a little bit more, me and my team are readily available, and you can book in some free time with us, and we're happy to support you. Just go via our website, and you can use our web chat to get in touch with us, and we can set up some time with you. My contact details there if you're interested in reaching out to me directly. Thanks very much for all your time. Hopefully it would be great to see all of you, as many of you as possible, engage in everything that we do as the OpenActive community. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Charlie. So moving on, we're now going to have Tim, Tom and Charlie just discussing why open virtual opportunities can benefit you both presently and in the longer term, and how will the physical activity landscape look after COVID restrictions start to get lifted in terms of virtual being the new normal. So I'll pass back over to Tim.
Yeah, and I'm hoping to pass the buck on this one and mostly give it to Tom and Charlie because they're so close to end users. I guess my assumption here is that to some extent virtual will be the new normal. It seems like there's been such a spike in virtual activity. So I was wondering if we could maybe be more specific. I was struck, for instance, by the comment that I believe Tom made about how there was a group of people who were being reached by virtual activities who probably weren't being reached by the more conventional gym-based activities. So I was going to ask Tom and Charlie whether they thought actually we're looking at a bigger sector overall once we get back to normal, quote unquote.
I think one of the biggest things for me in terms of, will virtual become the new normal, would be the concept that if you're delivering online, you strip out all the geographical boundaries that might exist with a physical activity. So one of the sort of catchphrases that's resonated a lot with providers is it doesn't matter if you're a deliverer of yoga classes in Cornwall, you can be delivering activity to participants in the Highlands of Scotland, and you'll be helping people keep active, and they'll be using your services. And I don't think that it's only lockdown that will mean people do that. I think it's opened for the sport and physical activity sector, open minds to a new style of delivery that we can sort of increase our reach and audience and provide more options to participants to get active in a way that suits them. It's not for everyone to go to a physical class. Some people find it intimidating and embarrassing. And actually, if they can get access to content live or on demand in their own home, in a space that they feel comfortable with and with people that they're comfortable with, I think that's an amazing message. So stripping down all those barriers, both the participant and the provider who can suddenly access a larger audience and deliver to anyone, even globally, scarily enough, online, I think is fantastic. And I think a model that will be with us for some time to come.
Yeah, I was just kind of getting to the fact that virtual activities will grow definitely, and will definitely play a role alongside physical activities. So people kind of maybe they're lacking time or too scared to go to the gym or want a bit of a mix and some more low cost options. I think it will play a role in the general options that people have, and that then grow the amount of people that are being physically active. And also, I think this whole COVID-19 situation will kind of put more of an emphasis on people being healthy in general. So yeah, activity will grow in general.
Yeah, I was really struck by something that Charlie said about how when we started off, I think the thinking was this is something that gets offered for free. A lot of instructors were thinking, okay, this is kind of a second-rate substitute for what we would normally be delivering. And I think over time, people have been showing that they're willing to pay. And I think it's because it's not, for a lot of people, seen as a second-rate substitute. It's seen as something that's quite valuable in its own right. That this is something that, this is a preferred mode of delivery for them, at least sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a sort of common respect from participants, and I think this did exist with physical, although maybe it's come to fruition because of the impact of COVID, that there's a real respect from the participant for the service that their providers, whether it's their local club that they go down to or their instructor whose classes they attend, for what they deliver and the service they provide them, and the fact that it's enjoyable and it's high quality and it does keep them active and it's good for their mental wellness. And I think they understand those benefits from a participant perspective. And I think what we're seeing is that respect be almost provided back to say, actually, I don't expect you, just because we're reacting to an environment, to be providing things to me for free. You're my instructor. Many participants, I think, are wanting to stay with their current instructor. It's someone they know, it's someone they're comfortable with, they like their style of delivery. So if you're a provider out there with a sort of community of participants and you're thinking, do I bother doing this? I think about it from the other side, that your participants like you and they want to be getting active with you, and so it's a service that you can keep them engaged with you and not lose them to another provider, and that they really treasure. We've seen 3 different models of sort of payment around this, things that we've discussed as a community, but some are just providing fixed cost, so saying it's £5 to attend my live stream class. Some are going down a donation route and just saying, I'm going to be providing this. You can join for free if you want to, but I would love for you to provide me a nominal donation, be that what it may, and asking people to simply donate, which is something we're exploring. And the last being that subscription model, just pay for my online services, charge a monthly fee, and it's kind of the Netflix style of business, and maybe a gig economy for the sports and physical activity sector. Charge £9.99 a month and you can access the content that I provide or specific services, and you can probably put offers around that. So I think everyone's really thinking differently and thinking about it from both sides of the equation.
Okay. Yeah, it's a new landscape, and I think an exciting one. We want to wrap up quickly, I think, just to take some questions and have time for that. I'm just going to add a slight cautionary note to that as well, in that I think the way this question is phrased is about how will activity look after COVID restrictions are lifted. I think we also have to be mindful of the possibility that they come down again, that we might be looking at a kind of oscillation of more and less liberalization of restrictions over time. So it's maybe not a good idea to think of it as a sort of binary, like, okay, then one day everything returns to normal. It could be that we have to cope with this kind of variation for quite some time in the future. So there's another incentive there to get things online and virtual. That said, let's move over to Q&As now, because I'm sure people have got a lot of questions about how they actually do that.
Thanks for that, Tim. So I'm going to go through as many of the questions as I can. I will start with the top ranked questions. So the first question that's come up I can answer, which is, where can we get support with screening / health and safety issues when delivering online sessions, streaming and on demand? So within Tim's presentation, it was the 4th slide in Tim's presentation, the 12th slide in total, and we will send out the slides after today's session. There was a link to a guide that an organisation called Iman have put together. And within that guide, there is a topic on safety, safeguarding and insurance. And this has been put together by EMD UK, who are the national governing body for group exercise. So that provides a lot of guidance around safety, insurance, safeguarding, and etc. So I think they've put that together really well, and so we will direct you to that guide. The second top question, is there support available to help practitioners support older adults / elderly use online technology? Would one of the three of you like to come in on that question?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and aligns with kind of the work we've been doing around more vulnerable groups. And it's a good question. Then there may be a guide that could be created from someone in the OpenActive community that kind of makes that easier. But with the technology we've built on our OnDemand platform, we've had that in mind, is to kind of simplify the experience as much as possible by being able to filter really clearly and find things that are for your demographic. But yeah, maybe a guide that can be created that really makes that clear for the kind of more vulnerable groups needs to be there.
Okay, so next question, someone has asked, if I'm doing a session over Zoom, for instance, how will this link to OpenActive? And I think that probably needs a little bit more of an explanation about what OpenActive is and isn't. So can I pass that question to you, Tim?
Sure. So I guess this is about really where your sessions are going to show up. Because what OpenActive is really doing is making a common standard for describing how your sessions are hosted and what time they're available and so on and so forth. OpenActive is not itself a platform, which is why when I was speaking, I was talking about the need to take a look at the guide or to use another service to get your sessions out there. So once you've done the Zoom recording, it's about getting in touch with an OpenActive system in order to publicize your event. So for instance, we heard Charlie from Playwaze talking about how you do that through Playwaze. And then there are other options available, which you can see through the IMIN guide. So yeah, step one, get your Zoom set up and running. And then step two would be finding somebody who handles converting that into an OpenActive format and publicizing it for you.
Thanks, Tim. And another question, which I think might be a question for you as well. How do prospective customers assess the quality of offerings? i.e., how will they be assured that classes will meet acceptable industry standards?
I can answer that from a kind of theoretical perspective, which is that within the OpenActive standards, there are various fields defined for talking about things like standards, training, and minimal qualifications and that kind of thing. I think in terms of front-end systems, the systems that instructors tend to interact with, that's often about ticking a box to indicate that you do indeed meet those various qualifications. And that gets reflected in the user interface in the end, saying yes, or the system will, for instance, filter based on whether or not people meet those qualifications. But in terms of the particularities of that user experience, I'm sure Tom and Charlie are better placed to answer.
I was going to say, I'm happy to jump in there. So it's something that we do as not just Playwaze, but all booking systems who work in this space. We're encouraged by the OpenActive community and the ODI in terms of an instruction to look at sort of quality, doing our best to quality assure those who are creating activities on our systems and asking us to promote them by feeding them through to the through OpenActive. So we'll be sort of making sure the provider and instructor has thought about the right things before they actually click that publish button. So challenging them really on making sure they've got the right qualifications, they've thought about their licenses, they've thought about the insurance that they need. A lot of this can come down to the information they provide as well. So when you're creating your activity, it's worth being really diligent about the information that you do provide. Uploading a good quality photo, adding a really detailed description about you as a provider, about the activity that you're providing, who it's suitable for. All those things can determine when a participant finds your activity, what they deem the quality of it. And so the best activities that get the most engagement are the ones that have detailed descriptions, have a good quality photo rather than just a logo or an unrelated image. So it's a little bit of a two-way street. Make sure you provide good quality information so that the participant's well informed and knows that you're a reputable provider, and also make sure that as the booking system will challenge you to, you're thinking about all the right things before you actually start providing and asking that system to promote your content.
Thank you, Charlie. Next question is, how do I know if my booking system supports OpenActive? So as we mentioned on the guide that I'm going to put together, there is a list of booking systems or project management systems that have built OpenActive functionality, so they're able to publish your sessions as open data, and B, whether they've implemented these virtual standards, because that's a new standard. So currently that is available on the guide, that also has the safety, safeguarding and insurance information. We will be launching a new OpenActive website next Friday, and on that there will also be a guide to booking systems, including things like pricing for those systems, what kinds of other organizations those systems work with, and so on. But if you have any particular questions about your system, you can email us at hello@openactive.io and we will help guide you through that. Next question we have, is OpenActive only available to larger leisure corporations, or can individual fitness professionals use the system too if they've taken their business online? And the answer to that, I would say, is OpenActive is available to everyone. OpenActive is an initiative. So just to clarify again on Tim's point earlier, OpenActive is not an app or a system in itself. It's an initiative, it's a community of organizations that anyone can join. And together we have put together common standards for publishing opportunities openly to help increase the reach of the physical activity sector as a whole and get more people active. So it is open for anyone to get involved with. You just need to use a system that has built OpenActive functionality, or ask the system that we currently use to build that functionality. There are a few questions left on. There's actually a lot of questions. We've had amazing turnout on today's webinar. If we haven't covered your question and you don't think it's been answered in the discussion today, please do email us. You'll see on the next slide the email address, the hello@openactive.io email address. So this email address is managed by the ODI team and we can help you with any questions that you might have. As we mentioned before, the slides from today, as well as a link to the recording of today's session, will be sent out to everyone who signed up via Eventbrite. So again, if you didn't sign up via Eventbrite, if one of your colleagues just sent you a link to this, for example, please let us know your email address at the email address we posted on the screen, so that we know to send you that information. And the last thing for me to say is just thank you to all of our speakers and for everyone that joined the session today.
Thanks a lot for coming, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.